Hi, and welcome to Light Express. This is a show about living with purpose and well-being. And I'm really excited today to be interviewing and have with me Sonia di Maulo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the Italian way.
You did the Italian way.
Yeah, that's great.
Perfect.
Awesome. So we're just about to start an Awakening Cafe, which we hold here in Hudson once a month. And we have the privilege of having Sonia as a guest speaker. Sonia is a speaker. She's also a coach and an author of a book called The Apple in the Orchard. It's about emerging with courage to become a leader in your life and amongst people, I'm sure, and leader in the world. Yeah. So let's get going. I just wanted to start to ask you, tell us a little bit about what you do in the world. What kind of work are you involved with?
Well, the good thing is that as I've progressed through my career, I'm happy to not call it work.
Excellent.
So that's how, I know in my life now, when it's easy and it's fun, that's what I should be doing.
Love it.
And so it first occurred to me in 2008. And I was speaking. I was in Geneva, and I was giving a session. Mm-hmm. And I developed this method for feedback in my class, and it created an energy that was unlike any other class I'd given at that time, and I'd been doing it for quite a while at that point. So I thought, this is incredible. I had people motivated, and the energy was incredible, and they wanted to keep in touch. They're still in touch. Wow. So and I've been able to thought, how can I reproduce this?
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Why it was so successful?
Oh, well, it's the 3+1 feedback framework that I use and that I coach leaders and trainers in the workplace, obviously, to use with their teams and with their peers. Okay. So it's actually a tip that I like that I'm going to share a little bit later on, but it's 3 positives for 1 improvement, for 1 did well. So it's a ratio that's been researched, a 3+1. Where it's usually for the home. So in the home, it's 3-1 because we.
So you're talking about with kids and that type of thing.
Yeah, with your spouse, with your family, with your friends, it's 3-1 because there's an understanding. There's a little bit more respect, and we know each other a little bit better. Yeah. And it's 5-1 in the workplace. Oh wow. And 9-1 in a new environment. So if you've got new hires, it's 9-1. Wow. But 9-1 is hard. Yes. And I've got a tip coming up on how to get better at that. So I stick to 3-1, and I make it in 3 ways. So it starts with a self-assessment. Somebody comes and says, these are the 3 things I think I did well or have been doing well. And I do it with my kids, so it's not age restrictive. Yeah. And it's really hard for people because they're usually very negative. Yeah. So they can't come up with the 3. And then they're like, okay, just get to the 1. I don't. Yeah. So
we're so focused on that. We're taught that in school, aren't we?
We are.
I got my kid's report card recently, and you just scan for where's the unsatisfactory, and I stop myself before saying anything.
I stop myself all the time because it's harder, right? Yeah, when it's your kids and your family. So So I saw this really a distinct difference in the level of performance in the group using that strategy, and then I've reproduced it, and now I've branded it, and now I'm teaching it to others, and I'm disseminating it for free as a framework.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really easy to use. Anybody can use it.
So how does that, like working that way, kind of what you mentioned before about loving what you do, you don't feel like it's work. No. So how is that manifested for you? Why is it that you get up and hopefully in the morning and you feel great? What's the connection with your work?
Well, I have to say that it's not all work. Yeah. The time that I felt it the most was the first time I did a talk about my book. Okay. And it was a 3-hour workshop. It was at a CSTD. It was the Canadian Training and Development Association of Canada. It was a 3-hour workshop, so it was packed room. And when it was done, I went, yes! That's what I need to be doing. It just felt right. It was flawless and seamless for me. I didn't have to exert a lot of energy for it. And the key, by the end of it, I was thriving. Yeah. And so as I was walking out of there, it was just like I had this glowing energy. Yeah. And I said to myself, okay, I need to do more of that. And so, our work tells us if it's good work, what we should be doing, or if it's maybe not thriving and enabling us to grow and allow others to grow through our work.
Yeah.
So I'm using that as my gauge.
I love that, because that's really is the gauge, is when you feel so alive and energetic, and you're really, that's when you're really in your zone. I actually call it like the kind of the Zen spot.
Absolutely.
And it's really, I think, when you engage your talents, your passion, and there's a sense of purpose as well.
That's what it is.
You know, how have you been able to kind of grow or expand that in your work? So go from maybe that first experience, or maybe you had experiences before, but then to be able to do that more and more in your work. I think people are really looking for that, and sometimes they do have that little taste of it, but they want to do it more.
They have to recreate it. Yeah, so there's actually a model for that that I don't have readily in my head, but it has to, so when that happened for me, I thought, wow, this is wonderful. I hope people need more of this. Right? Because it's all based on what people need. So that's one of the bubbles. You have to really look and see, do people need this? And then, do I have the capacity to do it? And so clearly, you know, I've assessed myself, and I've increased my ability and my ease with delivering these things and creating them. And then what was the third? Was another third bubble in there. People need it, your capacity.
Is there also making money doing it as well, so you can sustain yourself?
Well, that's the need, you know. So if people need it, if there's a need there, they'll pay for it, and they want to, you know, more of it. So I find that it's a very niche, you know, it's a very specific group. But what I'm learning is that it's larger than I thought it was. So
I imagine growing too, right?
I'm connecting with, you know, like we connected a while ago, but we're reconnecting, and I'm connecting a lot of people through social media as well that are in that space. And so I never realized how big it was, especially in organizations. There's a lot of leaders out there that are yearning for this new type of leadership.
Cool. And you work with leaders and organizations, but you're also working one-on-one, I understand. So can you explain a little bit about how you differentiate, or how you work with one group versus the other?
So I work at 3 levels. My organization is called Harvest Performance. So I look at performance in a global way. So the organizational performance. Traditionally, my education and my professional experience was in organizational development. Okay. So I look at organization. I still do a lot of that work, you know, creating performance systems within organizations so that they're, you know, more efficient. And so that I look at the organization, and I work really a lot with teams. But in order to enable the performance of teams, I got to work with their leaders. Right. So those are the 3 levels. So right now I'm working with a couple of leaders and helping them, you know, just get the best out of their teams, themselves, and their peers. So that's how it kind of works with my day-to-day.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. So our Light Express is also about living with well-being. And maybe you can make a link for me about how, when you started to live your purpose and started to live in passion, how that helped you from a well-being perspective.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I keep getting this pull for walking in nature. So nature for me, and it really helps me with clarity of mind. And I recently have a dog, so that
helps you walk.
Really helping. Yeah. So my husband is the dog's master, but I tag along, and so we take these incredible walks. And I live right near forest and the river as well. So it's I use it to look at perspective and to really become one with that. And I've also recently taken up hot yoga.
Oh, amazing.
And so that as well, like when I finish my sessions in terms of well-being, I feel there's a reconnection there. And those sessions are really incredible. And I always get these incredible work ideas that I didn't have like an hour prior. So I definitely see there's a connection there between reconnecting well-being with, you know, any kind of physical activity, and I have to do more of it. So I specifically put the time into my calendar. Awesome. But there's a real intense connection for me between well-being and the work that I do, for sure.
Fantastic. Yeah. So I think a lot of people who are really disconnected with their work, that ends up becoming a problem, because they have more, you know, disease, and they get sick and stressed and that type of thing. Absolutely. Tell us about your book and how that came about, how you decided that you wanted to write a book, and you know, you're working a lot with corporations and stuff, so sometimes that's not so obvious. It's
not, actually. So the book came about in it actually came around the same time as that experience I was telling you about in Geneva. And I came home, and at that moment, I knew I was going to have to. I knew I was going to have to write a book about it.
Okay.
And I have 2 small children, and I read a lot of children's books, and I was inspired by children's literature. Very striking images, few words, storytelling, and I'm a big fan of storytelling. So I said to myself, that's a book I want to write. So I thought, I'm going to write a children's book. Well, that didn't make sense in terms of my business strategy. And at the time, my business coach, she's like, well, I don't think a children's book is the right thing. But we reworked the concept, and I was really still passionate about the images. So I wrote an adult book, and it's not really adult. I go from age 10 to infinity. So my son's 10, so that's my gauge.
That's your gauge.
And I've actually even introduced it to children in kindergarten, in the elementary system. I don't read it to them because the language is a little bit at a higher level.
Okay.
But so I was inspired to write this book. I did it on a plane ride.
Really?
From Rome. I was doing a session in Rome, from Rome to Montreal.
Wow.
Direct flight. I wrote the whole thing in 8 hours.
No kidding.
I was in the zone, the Zen, what do you got? The
Zen
zone.
spot,
Zen spot.
I find flying that way for me, too.
Me too.
It's just like you're in your bubble, and there's something about the vibration.
Absolutely.
Yes,
and I didn't even feel the 8 hours, so I wrote the book.
Awesome.
And that was in January of 2011.
Yeah.
And then the rest of so it came out almost 2 years later, or a year later,
And now it's 1 year anniversary.
It's a 1 year anniversary.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And it's so it inspired me for the emerging leadership. So I say it's emerging leaders of all ages. There's no age group for emergence. It's at all levels, and it's my little story to encourage them to fight the fight and make it happen, because we all have it.
Yeah.
We just have to uncover it. So here's the book. Beautiful images by Constantina Calamaris, and she's a gifted illustrator. Awesome. And I bring her with me usually. Tonight she's sick, but usually she comes to all the events.
That's great. Yeah. And how can we find out about this book? Can we go onto your website?
Yep, so you can find it. It has its own website. I figured I'd give it its own spotlight.
That's
so
great.
It's www.theappleintheorchard.ca.
Okay.
And or through my website, which is harvestperformance.ca.
Okay, that's great. And on Facebook as well, you have a
on
great
Facebook
page
Facebook
with lots and lots of followers.
Absolutely.
I see it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, how would somebody that's interested, they might read your book, go on your website. How else could they maybe get in contact with you? What besides not get in contact, but what type of work could they engage you in?
Sure.
If it's an individual, because a lot of the people that are listening to us are more individuals or entrepreneurs, that type of thing.
So I do lots of one-on-one coaching. So the process is also on my website, and I help people. So if you're a leader, a lot of people say, well, I'm not a leader. But I think everybody's a leader. We're a leader of one.
Right.
And so how do we emerge through that inner leadership? And it's really about self-leadership. So I do that as well as working with entrepreneurs and helping them as they build their teams, work more efficiently with their teams as they grow, obviously.
Very good.
How to be more focused.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time. People are going to be here in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But I just want to ask you one last question.
Sure.
What legacy would you like to leave behind?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I love
That's
that.
actually the theme of tonight's talk. So
Right, exactly. Yeah. So and it's actually the theme of the book as well. So I'm actually thrilled to answer that question. So for me, it's really the connection, theme of connection. I would like to. Well, I think I'm already on my way. So for me, the book is leaving the legacy and talking about the message in the book, which is a strong message of connection and emergence. And so I would like people to remember me as the connection, the person who makes connections, enables ourselves to reconnect to the abilities we've always had, but we might have lost along the way. So I do that primarily with organizations, but with individuals as well.
When you talk about connections, are you talking connecting people, connecting to their inner self? What other?
Yes.
Are you talking about? Yeah.
So inner connection as well as connecting to people. I everywhere I go, I try to smile at people. I wave people from my car, and I get these looks. So I think that's what
Especially
I mean.
in Quebec. I'm sure.
Exactly. I know. The cross guards. I'm waving. They're like, but yeah. So connection. Just being present. Being present and connecting to the ground and connecting to the people around us.
That's great. Well, that's the doorbell, so people are coming. So thank you very much, Sonia. I really appreciate you spending the time with us.
Thank you. It's great.
And thank you all for tuning in. And please, if you have any comments, ideas, thoughts, please add them here. We look forward to hearing your feedback. And until next time, namaste and live well and express your life.
Thank you.